In the high-stakes arena of international diplomacy, a new player has emerged, Steve Witkoff. A real estate magnate, Witkoff has been thrust into the role of peace envoy by former President Donald J. Trump. Tasked with brokering an end to the conflict in Ukraine, Witkoff's appointment has raised eyebrows. Witkoff's deep ties to Trump earned him the former president's trust. Trump prioritizes deal-making over traditional diplomacy. This approach has drawn sharp criticism from career diplomats. Despite skepticism, Witkoff shuttles between Moscow, Kyiv, and other European capitals. His lack of diplomatic experience is seen as an asset by the Trump camp. As the war in Ukraine grinds on, the world watches, hoping for a breakthrough. Steve Witkoff's fourth visit to Moscow on April 25, 2025, marked another significant step in his self-described role as peace envoy. He was granted a 3-hour audience with Russian President Vladimir Putin himself, joined by key Kremlin figures Yuri Ushakov and Kirill Dmitriev. The meeting, shrouded in secrecy, fueled speculation about potential breakthroughs in the ongoing negotiations to end the Ukraine conflict. Following the meeting, the Kremlin released a carefully worded statement describing the talks as constructive and useful. They asserted that the dialogue had brought the US and Russian positions on Ukraine closer, suggesting progress towards a negotiated settlement. Witkoff, known for his effusive praise of Putin in previous encounters, described the Kremlin as awe-inspiring, further fueling speculation about his stance in the negotiations. However, details about the substance of the discussions remained scarce, leaving observers to parse through carefully curated statements and anonymous leaks. The lack of transparency fueled concerns among Western allies, who have expressed reservations about Trump's back-channeled diplomacy and Witkoff's role in it. Despite the Kremlin's optimistic tone, there were no concrete signs of a breakthrough. The meeting served as a stark reminder of the complex web of geopolitical interests and the high stakes involved in the search for peace in war-torn Ukraine. Amidst the flurry of diplomatic activity, former President Donald Trump, who appointed Witkoff as his envoy, made a dramatic announcement. Taking to his preferred platform, Truth Social, Trump proclaimed that Russia and Ukraine were very close to a deal and urged a high-level meeting to finalize it. He asserted that most of the major sticking points had been ironed out, urging both sides to stop the bloodshed now. Trump's declaration, characteristically bold and light on specifics, sent shockwaves through the international community. His claim of an imminent deal contradicted statements from both Kyiv and European capitals, raising questions about the veracity of his claims and the actual progress made in the negotiations. Adding to the confusion, Trump revealed a key element of what he called his final offer: Crimea will stay with Russia. This concession on a territory internationally recognized as part of Ukraine immediately drew condemnation from Kyiv and its Western allies, further muddying the waters of the already complex negotiations. While Trump's pronouncements generated headlines and fueled speculation, their impact on the actual negotiations remained unclear. His intervention, while intended to break the deadlock, risked further complicating the situation by creating unrealistic expectations and exacerbating existing tensions. In the wake of Trump's pronouncements and Witkoff's meeting with Putin, the Kremlin adopted a characteristically cautious stance. While acknowledging the constructive nature of the talks, Russian officials refrained from echoing Trump's optimism about an imminent deal. Instead, they emphasized the need for fine-tuning the U.S. proposal and securing Kyiv's agreement. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, in his daily press briefing, cautioned against what he termed shortcuts by the U.S., emphasizing the need for a thorough and meticulous approach to the negotiations. He reiterated Moscow's long-standing position that any peace agreement must address Russia's security concerns, hinting at their insistence on Ukraine remaining outside NATO's orbit. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, in a televised interview, echoed Peskov's sentiments, stating that while Moscow was ready to engage constructively, the U.S. proposal contained certain nuances that required further discussion. He notably refrained from addressing Trump's assertion about Crimea, further adding to the ambiguity surrounding the negotiations. The Kremlin's measured response, while seemingly welcoming dialogue, underscored the significant hurdles that still lie ahead in the quest for peace in Ukraine. Their insistence on Kyiv's acquiescence to key demands, particularly regarding territorial concessions and neutrality, hinted at the difficult choices facing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. While Moscow and Washington engaged in their diplomatic dance, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky remained steadfast in his rejection of any deal that compromised Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. He dismissed Trump's final offer as unacceptable, particularly the concession on Crimea, which he deemed non-negotiable. In a fiery address to the nation, Zelensky accused Russia of continuing its aggression under the guise of negotiations. He denounced the recent missile and drone attack on Kyiv, which claimed the lives of 12 civilians, as evidence of Moscow's lack of genuine commitment to peace. He called for real pressure on Russia to agree to an unconditional ceasefire before any discussion of territorial concessions. Zelensky's stance found strong support among European allies, who echoed his condemnation of Russia's aggression and his rejection of any deal that rewarded Moscow's territorial ambitions. The UK, France, and Germany jointly issued a statement reiterating their unwavering support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, while urging Russia to engage in meaningful negotiations. Kyiv's resolute stance highlighted the significant gap that remained between the negotiating positions. Zelensky's refusal to be pressured into accepting a deal that compromised Ukraine's core interests presented a formidable obstacle to Trump and Witkoff's efforts to broker a swift end to the conflict. The diplomatic back and forth unfolded against the backdrop of a grinding war that had entered its third year. Despite the immense human cost and the devastation inflicted upon Ukraine, the battlefield remained largely static. Russia, despite its initial military superiority, had failed to achieve its strategic objectives, bogged down by fierce Ukrainian resistance and Western military aid. Russian forces controlled nearly 20% of Ukrainian territory, including Crimea, which Moscow annexed in 2014, and large swaths of the eastern Donbas region. Despite their territorial gains, Russian troops faced constant pressure from Ukrainian counteroffensives, making any further advance costly and uncertain. The conflict had morphed into a war of attrition, with both sides entrenched in defensive positions, exchanging artillery fire and launching sporadic offensives with limited gains. The relentless shelling and drone attacks had reduced cities and towns to rubble, displacing millions of Ukrainians and creating a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions. The stalemate on the battlefield, coupled with the mounting casualties and economic costs, fueled the urgency for a negotiated settlement. Yet the deep mistrust between the warring parties and the significant gap in their negotiating positions made a swift resolution elusive, leaving Ukraine trapped in a bloody and uncertain limbo. Steve Witkoff's unconventional role in diplomacy drew scrutiny due to his lack of experience. Critics argued his ties to Trump and real estate background made him ill-suited for mediating international conflicts. His praise for Putin raised concerns about advancing Russian interests over Ukrainian sovereignty. Witkoff's lack of diplomatic protocol fueled skepticism about his ability to navigate the Ukrainian conflict. Observers questioned if his goal was securing a deal for Trump, regardless of Ukraine's stability. His focus on short-term gains risked exacerbating tensions and undermining peace prospects. Despite criticism, Witkoff argued his outsider status brought fresh perspectives to negotiations. Whether his approach could yield results remained to be seen, but his ties to Trump cast a shadow. Served as a symbolic reminder of the importance of personal diplomacy and the need for open lines of communication, even amidst the most bitter of conflicts. As the world watched the diplomatic dance unfold, a glimmer of hope emerged. Russian President Vladimir Putin signaled his openness to direct talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Putin's statement represented a significant shift in Moscow's stance. He linked his willingness to a proposed 30-day Easter truce. The potential for a Putin-Zelensky summit offered a glimmer of hope. Direct dialogue could bridge the deep chasm of mistrust. However, significant obstacles remained. Zelensky insisted on a complete ceasefire and withdrawal of Russian troops. The deep mistrust would make any negotiation daunting. Despite the challenges, the possibility of a summit offered hope. The world watched, hoping this glimmer of hope would not be extinguished.